Hello and welcome, my friends and viewers, to this week's episode of Legendlore, where we draw and talk about monsters, characters, gods, and a variety of cool tabletop RPG systems. This week I'm going to be covering and introducing you guys to an excellent system that I've recently picked up, known as EZD6, a fast-paced fantasy mayhem game created by DM Scotty and published by Runehammer Games of Crown and Skull fame. This video is going to mainly cover the primary mechanics of the game, some overviews of what it has to offer in terms of options and enjoyment, and how my experiences have been in terms of running it and playing in it. With all that said, let's dive right in. EZD6 is a game that doesn't have modifiers or stats or multiple sets of dice. The entire game is actually centered around the use of a 6-sided die and trying to roll as close to a 6 as possible. Everything in the game is focused on rolling 1d6 or attempting to roll multiple for a better result. And as such, it does help to remove the time sink of having to do math at the table and looking up arbitrary numbers for skill checks, DCs, and target numbers. The table below for difficulty is all that you'll really need for a quick reference on how hard or how easy it should be to overcome a challenge or to hit an enemy. And thus it makes the game very easy to sort of pick up, jump in, and play. EZD6 also has a mechanic known as Boons Banes, which is fairly common in TTRPG language. It functions exactly the same as advantage or disadvantage for D&D or other D20 fantasy games, where you roll 2 dice and take the higher or lower result depending on the circumstance. Following up with that, EZD6's primary method of controlling and impacting rolls is the karma mechanic. Simply put, karma is spent to increase a result of a roll by 1 per karma spent. Karma can also be used to recharge character abilities in the game, often at the price of about 5 karma per recharge. All players start every session with 3 karma each, and karma is gained over the course of the adventure whenever a player fails a roll, allowing them to take their past bad luck and grant them more impactful moments in the future. Karma can also be rewarded by the DM if they so wish, but from what I was able to understand of the book, at the end of a session all unused karma is lost, resulting in you being brought back to the base 3 at the start of the next session. This is ultimately done to prevent heavy banking and karma hoarding, so use them while you have them. Karma in this game can also not be used on magic or miracles, as those powers belong to the gods and the arcane and thus cannot be so easily influenced by mortals. That's not to say that sometimes I forget this rule, but I figured it would be important to know. Additionally, karma cannot be used on a roll of a natural 1. The next mechanic is the hero die, which functions similar to inspiration from D&D or D20 fantasy. If you aren't happy with your roll result, you can spend the hero die for a chance to reroll and take the better result. Every PC starts every session with 1 hero die and can regain use of a hero die by spending 5 karma. Moving on, EZD6 has 2 primary forms of measuring time. Narrative, which is loose and can represent anything from minutes to days, but has no time-sensitive aspects to it, and action time, which is when combat or skill challenges occur and is measured by turns similar to other classic D20 games. In combat or in action time in general, each PC has a movement, an action, and a free action. Movements are self-explanatory, actions can be used to cast spells, swing weapons, climb trees, etc., and free actions can be used for quick maneuvers like drinking potions, drawing weapons, and speaking to other PCs. EZD6 normally uses theater of the mind measurements of distance, but a grid can be used in play for those who like a more clear definition of player and enemy location. Building off of that, in EZD6, you don't have 1,000 hit points, nor do you need to keep track of hit dice or anything else over the course of an adventure. Every character, with the exception of some classes and monsters, has 3 strikes, meaning that when they are successfully hit, they normally suffer 1 strike. There's no damage dice or stat modifiers to add to damage, it's one and done, save for dangerous monsters who can deal more than 1 strike. With the strike system comes armor and Miraculous saves. Armor in this game is not decided by equipment, but by your class, which gives you an armor save number ranging from 2 to 6. When a PC is chosen to be attacked by a monster, they must roll an armor save, and if the result that they roll is equal to or lower than their armor save, they avoid losing a strike. Then there are Miraculous saves, which are also decided by your class but work a little bit differently. When the PC is subject to an effect that armor can't save them from, such as spells or certain monster abilities, they roll a Miraculous save instead. Same as the armor save though, if the result they roll is equal to or lower than their Miraculous save number, they avoid losing a strike or suffering the effect. Now, when a player is rolling to hit an enemy, if you roll a 6, that is considered a critical hit and you get to roll another d6 with the potential to deal another strike. Additionally, if you roll another 6 on that second die, you roll again, and you keep rolling until you eventually do not roll a 6. I believe this is called exploding dice in other game systems, but it does functionally act the same. Lastly, let's talk about magic and spells. Magic isn't tracked via spell slots or with specific spells that have intricate mechanics and clear bounds of usability. The DM and the spellcaster PCs work together to discuss the effects of their spells, the nature of which is determined by the chosen circle of sorcery, which functions like spell schools in D&D. Covering all of Magic's intricacies in EZD6 would take time away from other things I want to cover in this video, but I certainly could go into detail about it in a later video if you guys would like me to. Please let me know in the comments below. Now, when creating characters in EZD6, you do so by choosing a hero path or class, a species, 2 inclinations, which are essentially additional feats or skills to accentuate your class, a circle of sorcery if you're playing the spellcaster conjurer class specifically, and finally, your equipment. There are 5 species, 9 classes, and 30 inclinations to choose from in the base game, so there are many different combinations of characters that you guys could explore. For species, there is the human, elf, dwarf, halfling, and goblin, and for classes, there is the warrior, the warden, the delver, the brute, the rascal, the friar, conjurer, beastmaster, and skald. Below, I've kind of included what their more traditional titles would have been in, say, another game, just to help you guys understand what it is that they can and can't do. For dungeon masters who are interested in running EZD6, the book has a very great section on how to run the game to keep it interesting and get the best experience out of its very lean mechanics, as well as advice on running monsters, managing obstacles for adventures, and a whole trove of both one-use and legendary magic items to reward your players over the course of play. Monster stat blocks are very simple and easy to remember compared to other games, and the system's lack of needing specific skills like in D&D or Pathfinder or even Crown and Skull can help keep things fluid and allow the PCs and the DM to rely on their creativity, rather than just trying to roll the problem away. All of the DMing advice, PC options, monsters, magic items, potions, and everything else is included in one single book, which makes it very easy to maneuver, reference, and even share between players. There is no 3 different books like in Pathfinder or D&D. It's very easy to get into. Alright, with all of the objective facts about the game out of the way, in terms of my own opinions and personal experience with the system, I find it to be intuitive, simple, and very fast to run and easy to build content for, which makes it appealing to me as someone who's not used to having as much time on my hands as I used to plan my games. I love the fact that your class determines how well you fight, as well as how your armor protects you and how well defended you are against magical or supernatural effects, as it means that class composition automatically affects how effective you are as a party. Going into a dungeon without a delver or taking on an orc fortress without a warrior is a very risky decision, and I've personally come to enjoy that sort of richness over, say, 5th edition's excessive fluidity, where a sorcerer or warlock can supplement or even outdo the healing of a cleric depending on their subclass. Combat is actually fast and fun to run through, and the karma system allows bad rolls to reinforce good rolls later on. And the abstract nature of skills and spells help allow PCs to rely on creative problem solving while still having functional guidelines to adhere to, as opposed to blunt forcing their way through the adventure by relying on rolls. Admittedly, I have found that some players have difficulty with this form of play if they like to use skills as a heavy framework for their decision making, or if they get overwhelmed by the abstract amorphous openness that the system provides. If you like the classic 6 stats, specific skills, and heavy crunch in your games, you may find yourself having to check and change a lot of your instincts in order to enjoy EZD6. It's also predominantly focused on short-term gameplay rather than overly long campaigns. One-shots, short adventures, and short campaigns flourish in this system, but it unfortunately doesn't have any defined rules for leveling up or progressing beyond what you start with. All of your skills are given to you at character creation, and while you can extend it by giving your PCs more strikes or more inclinations, the system, in my opinion, is better because it caters to shorter games. You don't have to block out 2 whole years for an entire campaign, and it allows you to be able to enjoy other games in the interim and avoid system fatigue, which is something that I think games like Pathfinder and 5th edition really suffer from, not because of how they're built, but predominantly because of the current market and the tight holds that the game maintains over the industry. Overall, I highly recommend EZD6 for its simple yet fun-focused system, finding that it works very well for hex crawls, wacky pulp adventures with a more comedic edge, or even darker fantasy where death is more of a risk, reinforced by the 3-strike system. If you guys are interested in this game, please check it out in the links below for the PDFs and the hardcovers at DM Scotty's website, as well as a link to the DM Scotty Discord if you guys have any questions or inquiries about the game itself. It's a very nice community and I've gotten a lot of questions answered on it. With that said, I want to thank all of you guys for watching. I do really hope that it inspires all of you guys to check out the system, and if you liked the video, please like, share, subscribe, and please let me know if there are any other tabletop systems you guys think I should check out. I definitely want to cover other games such as maybe Shadowrun, Crown and Skull itself, maybe even going a little bit into Pathfinder, and possibly doing a full breakdown of Merkborg, which I've made videos for in the past. If you guys have ever had an experience with EZD6, please let me know in the comments how you guys liked it, if there's things that you would change, or if there's any advice for people who are just getting into it. And also, let me know what you guys would like to see in upcoming videos. But until then, I'll see you guys next time.